SITREP World Briefing for July 7, 2026. Russia launched a missile and drone barrage against Kyiv overnight into Monday, striking residential areas of the Ukrainian capital and killing civilians ahead of a NATO summit. The attack blasted a hole in a residential building in Kyiv as rescue crews worked through debris, and emergency officials responded across the city after one of the most significant strikes on the capital in recent days. The timing gave the strike wider political significance because it came just before NATO leaders were due to meet, putting Ukraine's air defense needs and Western military support at the center of alliance deliberations. Kyiv has argued that attacks on apartment blocks and other civilian sites show why faster deliveries of interceptors, missiles, and related defense systems matter. Kyiv has remained a symbolically and strategically important target throughout Russia's full-scale invasion because strikes on the capital are meant not only to destroy infrastructure, but also to demonstrate that no part of Ukraine is fully beyond reach. By hitting the city ahead of a high-level NATO gathering, Moscow paired military pressure with a diplomatic signal. Explosions struck central Damascus on Tuesday during French President Emmanuel Macron's visit to Syria, with blasts reported near the Four Seasons Hotel in the Syrian capital and at least 18 people injured. Macron was in talks with Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara at the presidential palace when the explosions were heard. The attack disrupted a trip intended to signal diplomatic re-engagement and a return to formal state-to-state contacts after years of war and isolation. The blasts appeared to target the symbolism of Macron's visit as much as any physical site, striking at a strategy of restoring business as usual in Damascus and encouraging foreign engagement with the new Syrian leadership. France has pushed Europe to reopen channels with Syria's post-Assad authorities, but Tuesday's attack highlighted how insecurity in Damascus remains a major barrier to diplomacy, reconstruction, and private investment. For Syria's new rulers, attracting outside capital and political legitimacy depends not only on formal recognition, but also on proving they can secure the capital, protect visiting leaders, and prevent bombings in the center of government and commerce. Macron's presence in Damascus was politically charged because it sought to move beyond emergency diplomacy toward normalization with Syria's new leadership. The French president's meetings with al-Shara were meant to test whether Western governments could deal pragmatically with the authorities that replaced Assad, while pressing for stability and economic opening. Tuesday's explosions will sharpen debate in Paris and other European capitals over how quickly to deepen ties, because any serious reopening of embassies, trade aid projects, and investment requires a level of urban security that Damascus still has not demonstrated. NATO leaders convened in Ankara on Tuesday for a summit centered on Ukraine, alliance cohesion, and defense commitments, with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expected to press allies for additional air defense systems and interceptor missiles after intense Russian strikes. The meeting opened as Ukraine launched more than 400 drones toward Moscow overnight, linking the summit directly to the tempo of the war. The Ankara gathering has become both a military coordination forum and a political test of whether NATO can sustain practical support for Kyiv while keeping all 32 allies aligned on burden sharing and strategy. The Ankara summit is testing more than battlefield support for Ukraine. It is also forcing European governments, the United States and Turkey, to address long-standing arguments over who pays for NATO's defense, how quickly allies can expand production of missiles and air defense equipment, and how to manage friction caused by President Donald Trump's approach to the alliance. Those tensions matter because NATO's credibility depends not only on declarations from summit communiques, but on whether members convert pledges into deployable capabilities, financing, and procurement deals large enough to reassure Eastern allies and keep Ukraine supplied through another year of war. Holding the summit in Ankara gives Turkey a prominent role at a moment when NATO must manage threats stretching from the Black Sea to the Middle East. Turkey controls access to the Black Sea through the Bosporus and Dardanelles, maintains a complex relationship with both Kyiv and Moscow, and has tried to preserve leverage with all sides while remaining a core alliance member. That makes Ankara a consequential venue for talks on defense commitments, because decisions taken there will shape how NATO balances immediate Ukrainian needs against longer-term plans to strengthen collective defense, replenish stockpiles, and maintain unity under mounting political pressure. A Paris appeals court was due to deliver a ruling on Tuesday in Marine Le Pen's embezzlement case, a decision with immediate consequences for the far-right leader's eligibility to run in France's 2027 presidential election. Le Pen, the leading figure of the National Rally and a three-time presidential candidate, has made the case politically pivotal because the proceedings concern alleged misuse of European Parliament funds and could determine whether she can mount a fourth bid for the Élysée Palace. With the court sitting in Paris and the judgment expected on July 7th, the case moved beyond a routine appeal and into a defining test of whether one of France's most prominent opposition politicians can remain on the ballot in the next national contest. The appeal court's decision matters far beyond Le Pen's personal legal defense, because National Rally has spent years trying to convert strong support in European and parliamentary elections into control of the French presidency. France's presidential system makes candidate eligibility decisive, and any ruling that affects Le Pen's ability to stand would reshape calculations across the French right, the center, and the left nearly a year before the campaign fully accelerates. The case also carries wider significance for public trust in political institutions, since it centers on allegations tied to European Parliament money, an issue that touches both French domestic politics and the long-running argument over how nationalist parties operate within European Union institutions they often criticize. Sources and the full written briefing are available at sitrepbrief.com.